Interlaced live, me Casa, su Casa, of course alongside Col Lovelace in the house.
Good evening.
And the wonderful, the legendary, though she's very humble so she won't accept any of the compliments. Tonight's guest DJ, please everybody welcome Marcia Carr. Right.
Can I just say
yeah, of course you can.
Ecstatic to be here.
No, Paris, get back in your box.
How you doing?
We're good. How you doing? Glad you made it.
I'm all right. I'm a bit hot because in London it's humid right now. I don't know about any other part of the world, but we are suffering because it's stifling a little bit in the air. But you know, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for the invite, Cole. And me, Casa crew and the Doin'it TV crew. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem,
first off.
no problem. Glad you came. Glad you could make it, even though it was a bit of a chore.
Yeah.
Don't listen to his
I'm a soldier though. I'm a soldier.
She soldiered through. Don't worry about that. Well, for those of you that don't know, this is the third in the series, so we call it episode 3. The concept came from Cole to sort of supplement your parties not being on, but still keep in contact with everybody, and you know, just making sure you're all good and that we're good, and trying to keep you informed in what's been going on in Clubland. We haven't really moved forward, have we? To tell you the truth.
Nothing's happened. Clubs are still closed. You're not seeing any changes.
Sure.
I've heard a few underground sort of warehouse dues and like dues in the fields and in the forests and stuff like that was going on. But yeah, we're still in the same position. Nomad is still closed at the moment. So we're going to continue to do this until further notice.
And like I said, I mean, we started off. We had the first one was
Booker T.
That went down a storm.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Last month we put on Paul.
Yeah, he was really good.
That was really good. So. How did this come about?
And now it's ladies' night,
yes,
is it?
Ladies' night. Ladies' night, definitely.
Last time I checked, I'm all there. I'm still a lady.
What's the connection? Was Marcia going to be playing tonight, maybe?
No, but Marcia wasn't going to play. What I thought was that because Marcia's been in the scene for such a long time.
Sure.
With regards to her music, it's very eclectic, and also her knowledge of the scene.
Oh, I can vouch for that.
You're very passionate about.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be brilliant.
Stalwart, as we call it.
Man. I thought it would be brilliant to get you on just to hear your background. Where you came from, what inspires you. So yeah, I think it's really good that we got you here.
Well, thank you for thinking of me so highly. And you're right. The word is passion. It's been like anyone who has hobbies. I'm into black music and have been since I was knee high to a grasshopper. Really.
Well,
so,
that was kind of one of my lead questions. Is like where did the influence come from? Where was it, mum, dad?
It has to start with in the home.
Yeah.
My parents are Jamaican. So I grew up hearing a lot of Tamla, Motown, Brunswick, Chess Records, King Records labels, 7 inches, seeing them around the house. And my mum is an ardent reggae fan as well. So before even Lovers Rock, people like John Holt, the Wailers, Bunny Wailer, all these sorts of people, the pedigree of Jamaican artists from the old school. And, she's into the Scatterlights and... all the names for reggae before it became reggae, you could say. The ska, the blue beat, and so on. So growing up with that, and then for a few years of my life, I also lived in New York. So I became familiar with a TV program called Soul Train.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So that stuck with me in my mind quite a bit. And I also have to say my auntie, because she used to, in the 70s and 80s, she used to go to New York every year, like it was her sort of
home.
Her ritual to go every year to New York, and she'd come back with a pile of records. And what would she do with these pile of records? She'd have house parties. So my mum obviously would take myself and my brother around there, and when we were supposed to be asleep with my cousin Conrad in the bedroom with the coats pile thrown on top of us, I creep out, sorry, the patois coming out now. I creep out of the bedroom, I sneak in with the big people there, man, thing. I see Wagwan, and I quite kind of liked it. And because I was only so small, no one sort of noticed me. I was like, no disrespect to small people, but I wasn't that obvious in the place. But the disco, and the music that she was bringing back. That sort of whetted my whistle to the taste of music. And I used to take my pocket money, Steve, and buy 7 inches and tunes and things like that. And
religiously.
Yes, it was my pocket money, especially when it's my birthday. That's when I tended to get more money, and I'd started buying records with them.
Sure.
And then ended up being sort of like, not that I knew I was a DJ, but playing the records at family gatherings at the time, you know.
What age would you say you were around that time?
Oh, about 10, 11.
Wow.
But from before that, I was buying records with my, pocket money. So all of these things, I would say, have a strong influence on me. I had a cousin also who used to do dances, reggae dances and things like that. I never went to the dances, but I was aware that my cousin,
you're aware, yeah,
my mum's kind of first cousin, did parties down at Vauxhall before it became the Coliseum. So I was familiar with that place. It's funny how things later on somehow have an actual, strong place in your journey, because he used to do the dances at this place which was called the Coliseum, number 1, 9 Elms. But I can't remember what the venue was called before that.
Podium.
That's it. It was the Podium. He used to do reggae and soul dances there. And then, who knew it, I'd end up sort of be involved there with a few people, Satellite Club. And
big shout out to Nicky Hine.
Yes, to Nicholas Smith. And just doing other, that sort of came a little bit later, but it's just interesting.
It is.
So my journey was definitely the influence of Soul Train growing up, and I was living in Brooklyn, New York, with my uncle, and I used to watch that program. So when I came back to London and I saw Top of the Pops, I just thought, what? I'm not lying, I actually thought, well, what is this? It doesn't really compare. It really didn't sort of.
It was like a poor version.
Yes, and not to be rude, but the only time I got excited at watching Top of the Pops was when I saw people that looked like me on the television. It didn't really inspire me. Or when Spandau Ballet on.
Do you remember how big a thing that was when someone that you could relate to on Top of the Pops was on Top of the Pops?
It was for me. It was a massive thing, because the rest of the time. I know it's pop music, but I just didn't really. It didn't identify with it really most of the time. And obviously, I'd hear this music on radio, obviously, and see it on television programs. But that's when I got the most excited, especially in the 80s, seeing all the jazz, funk, soul artists coming through and seeing them.
So, what was your breakthrough club personally? Like, where did you go? And you said, right, that's the club I'm going to, when you were probably early teens.
So I went to Crackers Club. I used to go to a lot of all-dayers. Greg Edwards, who I'm very fond of. I used to go to loads of the all-dayers. I think, were they at the Lyceum? The Lyceum. Ballroom, they called it at the time. I used to go to those quite a lot.
You used to have a residency down at the Dun Cow on a Tuesday.
I didn't go to that. I was aware of that because of other cousins, but I didn't go to that.
He was a massive influence, though, Greg.
Yes, those I would say that his parties at the Lyceum were definitely, because you'd see South London, East London, West London people, everybody there, and.
Incredible.
There were girls there, but not as many. It was always about the guys, really. But we held our ground. I held my ground anyway. in the outer circle, not the inner circle.
Yeah. I get that. So where does your, because I always see you busting moves when we're out, where does the dancing come from?
Excuse me, I'm sweating profusely because it was hot outside on the way to the studio. Where did I get my dance moves from, did you say?
Not your dance moves, but you've got some moves. I always see you dancing in the club, and what inspired you to do that?
I think my grandmother, she was a very good dancer when she was alive. Anita, my aunt, my mum is still a great dancer, even though she's in her mid-70s.
Wow,
these kind of things, and seeing the guys in the clubs. I used to go to Dingwalls as well. I was just inspired by the guys, and somehow I just sort of picked it up. when I was 10, 11 and 12, I attended the Italia Conte for ballet.
Okay.
But I gave it up because I wanted to do tap, and then my mum said I wasn't interested anymore, so I gave up. But that's not where I learned to dance. I already could dance somehow.
Yeah.
And
you got rid of.
And then, you know what? For me, it's about I've always just felt the music. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but I didn't need drugs. I didn't need alcohol. I'm not a drinker. In fact, I've never drunk really. I used to smoke, but I've never drunk. And so within the first few seconds, if I kind of, I'm feeling this.
Yeah. Foot starts.
And that's a habit that became more acute when I worked at record shops, because I could just touch the needle on a record, and within a few skips across the record, I'd know if I want the tune or not, especially if I'm in a hurry.
Well, you led that quite nicely. So record shops. Let's go into that.
I worked at two, but I used to attend them, and would be Bluebird Records. Shouts out to Abby Shah. That's where I first met him before he went over to Catch a Groove.
Sure.
And
Abby is a wonderful guy. I love that guy.
That was one of, and there was there were two record shops at Clapham Junction, which is in Battersea, southwest London. One was called Dub Vendor, and this white guy owned it, and he started off at a stall with the record shop and progressed into the shop with Face, and they used to deal with reggae, but they would sell the odd bit of soul. So I'd go there, and there was a record shop just up from there on Lavender Hill. I can't remember the name of it, but I used to go there.
I'm remembering
Quaff Records. I used to go to Quaff Records. Red Records in Brixton. A Jamaican guy called Philip used to work there. My friend Coral Graham used to work there. I've been to a few places here, there and everywhere, but the two record shops I actually worked at passionately was Unity Records, which was in the West End, and it used to be the second branch of Red Records. And I know how it changed its name and everything, and it became Unity Records. And then also Release the Groove, Release the Pressure with Gary Dillon and them guys. So I've been about a little bit here and there. And obviously I knew all the guys from Black Market, BM Soho, Uptown Records, Johnny Reckless when he worked at Reckless Records. His name was Johnny Reckless before he worked at the record shop. So record shops I do still feel passionately about. Yes, I would say.
And vinyl in particular as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you still
buy vinyl? You still buy?
Yes, I do occasionally. Yeah. But during the lockdown, I haven't really bought anything. But yes, I try to buy it where I can here and there. But I support the digital platforms, and I still use CDs. Yeah. I'm not throwing my CDs away. I know some people did that, but that's not me. So.
How difficult has it been for you, like with that transition? You know, like all of a sudden it seemed like CDs was the thing, and record shops started to fade out.
I must say I dug my heels in for quite a while, and point blankly, I'm not. I was adamant that I didn't want to buy any CDs before the digital, the MP3, the files came along. Yeah. I stuck my heels in for quite a few years, so I know I missed out on lots of records, but that's fine. I've got more than enough tunes, even digitally now. It's just insane. Sure. I can't even remember some of the things. That we just pick up when we accumulate them, don't we? But in terms of vinyl, I'm always going to default to records first and foremost, and I think it's a culture. The art of it should be something that we should preserve, also to teach the younger generation that are coming up, and I'm glad that some of them are still interested. There are some DJs that I respect who are coming up or who've been doing their thing for the last few years, like Josie Rebel, Shy One, and a few other people, and they do buy vinyl.
Yeah, they do buy vinyl. I've seen a lot of young DJs coming from, well, not a lot, but I've seen a good quality of DJs coming through playing vinyl, but they look like they've inherited it. It's not just been something that they've picked up, so it's nice to see that people probably like yourself have influenced that generation as well.
Keeping up with that tradition.
Because you must have found that hard. I know a lot of the parties that you do really sort of support the female DJ side of it. Because
I have to correct you there. I support men, and I love my brothers first, but I try to also support the women.
And you put forth the fact that they should get more recognition, or there should be parties that shouldn't be gender based. It should be based on how they can play. So that's what I was trying to get to. You seem to really come from that angle. Do you think that's also been a hindrance though, because like you said, you've had to dig your heels in some places? And through me, I've known a lot of DJs that have dug their heel in, but does that mean that they've made a sacrifice?
I think sometimes it hasn't put me in good stead. I mean, I remember I was telling somebody recently about the time a world-renowned radio station that everybody knows around the globe, they rang me up one time, and it was for International Women's Day, and my attitude was, so am I not a woman 364 other days of the year? What about then? Why could they only think to ring me up to fill a slot for a piece for International Women's Day? And sometimes I do find those things, I just find it patronising, it's just condescending. We're out here, I've been spinning for over 30 years, actually. Wow. That's not much in comparison to some of my peers that I respect, but still, it's an inning. It's more than apprenticeship, I think. And so I think, well, can you call us the rest of the time? Because we don't have a men's international day, do we? So men always, they're the default DJs always, and invariably white, Caucasian, males.
Why do you think that is?
Because of systemic racism. It's indentured, unfortunately, and I just think women are just an afterthought usually. So a few years ago, I made it I took a stance with some other women who have before, and I also did this in the early 90s, but we kind of got nowhere. Some women tried to make their voices heard, and it sort of fizzled out after about 12 months or so that we ended up putting that to bed, and then I just carried on hanging with the boys, doing my thing, but some years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I set up Girls Be Like, and that's a community-based platform specifically for women DJs, producers, songwriters. But we don't exclude men. You can come on the dance floor and show us your moves. But the women are taking control behind the deck. So Girls Be Like is what that project is about, because it's just picking up on an American slang. Well, girls be like this, girls be like that. Well, girls be like this when we're behind the turntables, So we're not all about, the mammary glands and the, the rear end. No. So it has to be said, because I'm tired of it. We're seen as sexual props, and boo-hoo to the women that want to do that, but when they go to the extreme, that's when I get peed off, because I'm like, well, you're doing a disservice to other women, because we're trying to break that stereotype. It's another thing that's endemic in the culture of dance music. Not just dance music. You see through hip hop, you even see it on thrash metal album covers, Iron Maiden album covers. The women are just purported as sex objects, and we need to break that, because I have got something between my ears.
Isn't it so strange, because so many women that have come through have not been able to get the foothold that men have got as well in the same position. Whether it was a Beyonce even, they don't seem to be able to get this foothold. That's how endemic it is, that you can be that big and still not have that real core where you can just bring it all in together.
We're still struggling, Steve. You're correct. We're still struggling, and there are times where it feels like if you speak just a little too loudly, you're labelled.
Oh, you're angry.
I'm not angry. I'm just trying to address facts of the matter, historical things that have gone before us. So how is that being angry to try and get my peers, male or female, to just address that?
And understand.
Address that. If you say that you're, allies of us, then we need to see some more of that in action. So that means billings should be inclusive of women, and for me, I want to see more black women on there. It's just too long.
It's too long.
And so that's why, because we have to keep going on about it, it seems like a broken record. I'm not going to apologise for having to address facts. It's not a myth out here. We are here.
Isn't it strange how this is then, in this circumstances that we're in a period of time, Corona and all the BLM and everything else that's going on around it, that we've kind of got round to this now, where I've noticed with yourself as well, I've always come across you and you've always just fitted in. Like with the guys, with the girls, with the everybody.
Cool, pushing my way in and holding my corner, man.
No, I don't even think you had to push
hold
your
my
way
corner, sir.
No,
Me have to hold my corner. I saw it go.
Your knowledge was always something, you know, you did have something to say. You always had an opinion and it was based on matter of fact. Do you know what I mean?
I think that is a combination, all-encompassing of music reviews, interviews that I've done. I wrote with you, remember Touch Magazine?
Yeah, for
Him
sure.
and I were both writers on there. Yes, we know what you were up to. Anyway, so all of that is part and parcel of me, really. So
for sure.
it's helped, and I always used to try to focus on, rather than using the space, the platform to be negative about records, to try to lift up the person that's behind that record.
Perfect.
Or the label,
Yeah.
by saying something. Obviously it's a personal opinion, but just giving my personal opinion about that, that's all we're doing, really, you know.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's I think that's led us nicely into showing us what you're about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Really, the time flew by that quickly.
Flew by, man. Well,
I've got queue up.
This is, everybody, if you didn't understand what we're doing, we've been interviewing Marcia Carr, guest DJ tonight on Col Lovelace's Interlaced Live Friday night party. And we're just trying to give you a brief background into the people behind the decks, because there's more to it than, you know, snatching a few tracks from various platforms and just playing. There's history here, there's heritage, and there's foundation. So tonight, guest DJ Marcia Carr.
Yes.
She's going to queue up and we're going to get into it. Cole, let's just have a quick word from you. Do you think we'll be doing this again soon?
Definitely, man.
Well, you know we love having you here.
Oh,
so.
I love being here, man. It's always nice. It's a nice atmosphere. And the reviews that we get back and the responses that we get back are so amazing, you know. So, yeah, definitely be back here. I think I'm going to do one in September.
Okay.
And then probably 2 more after that. Not sure which DJs are going to be playing yet, but it's going to be the similar what we do already, you know. Somebody who's up, you know, coming through the ranks, or who's not getting that recognition. You know, so yeah, man, we need to just keep doing it, man. Keep bringing it on.
Good. There we go. Thank you for watching. Thank you for paying attention and doing your thing.
Guys.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. All right, we're going to leave it to DJ Marcia Carr.